Hello, my name is Martin Cordoba, and today I'm going to be reflecting on aspects of student learning in relation to constructivism and three contemporary ICT learning tools. I would like to firstly begin by introducing the topic of constructivism and its significance in the context of student learning. Constructivism is fundamentally supported by the idea that meaning is ultimately constructed by the learner, as constructivists believe that the learner is both mentally and physically active in the construction of their own knowledge and is therefore capable of self-regulating their learning process. Constructivists also have a developmental perspective when it comes to learning, arguing that young children learn by developing cognitive structures or schemas, adding new information to progressively build these schema. An example of this is Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development, which suggests that children move through 4 stages of mental development, which focuses on how children acquire knowledge and also on an understanding of nature and development. These stages include the sensory-motor stage from birth to 2 years, the pre-operational stage from the ages of 2 to 7, the concrete operational stage from the ages of 7 to 11, and the formal operational stage from the ages of 12 and up. From the ages of 12 upwards, some of the main characteristics include thinking abstractly, the consideration of moral, ethical, and political concerns, and beginning to use deductive logic. Lev Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory is another key example of constructivism, with one of his main ideas being that of the zone of proximal development, which is the distance between what a child can achieve by themselves and what they can achieve by themselves with assistance. In this way, the teacher provides support for a student based on their own zone of proximal development level, by setting tasks which a student could otherwise not complete, with the end goal being for the student to become an independent and self-regulating learner as these supports are reduced over time. Students are therefore presented with tasks which are just out of their reach, with a level of challenge in their learning being in the Goldilocks zone, which is otherwise referred to as a healthy struggle between being too simple and too difficult. So in order to sum up constructivism, we can think of it in terms of the following principles. Learners are active participants in their own learning, and learning by doing is central to constructivism in practice. Learners are self-regulated. They construct and monitor their own learning, and metacognition is important in the facilitation of this self-regulation. Social interaction is necessary for an effective learning process. The theories of Piaget and Vygotsky acknowledge that social interaction with peers, teachers, and parents play an important role in cognitive development. In the Australian curriculum, ICT skills are listed as one of the 7 general capabilities and are developed as students learn to use ICT in an effective and appropriate manner in order to access, create, and communicate information and ideas, practice problem solving, and work collaboratively in all learning areas both at school and in their lives beyond school. This involves students learning to make the most of the digital technologies which are available to them, including the need to adapt to new ways of doing things as technology continues to evolve, as well as limiting the risks which are present with these technologies. Today I will be examining 3 different contemporary ICT tools in terms of how they can be used to support constructivist approaches to teaching and learning, how they can be used to support and respond to the needs of diverse learners, and how they can be implemented safely, responsibly, and ethically in a secondary school classroom environment. The first tool which I'm going to analyze is YouTube, an online video sharing platform through which anyone who is signed up to a free account can upload videos. It can be particularly helpful for students who want to present work, and also for organizations who post collections of videos on the site, which is organized into channels. It is great for tutorials in terms of sharing and demonstrating content. For example, I have previously used YouTube as a resource whilst teaching visual arts on a teaching practicum, as I was demonstrating a technique for clay building which was useful for the students to visualize and employ the constructivist principle of learning by doing, as they could put what they were observing directly into practice. YouTube can be accessed on any device, which can be useful for students if they need to view a video from home on whatever type of device they have readily available, and has a closed captions feature for diverse learners who may have hearing impairments or speak English as an additional language or dialect. So I'm now going to run through a short demonstration of how to navigate the YouTube site. So this is an example of a video that I used whilst I was on practicum of sculpting a face for a visual arts class. You can see here is the closed captions feature and subtitles. You've also got a few other options here in terms of settings, playback, annotations, that sort of thing. You've also got the full screen mode, which can be quite helpful. And then you've got the search bar here. You've got some related videos on the side or videos of interest. You've got this channel here, so obviously this video is part of this channel, so if you wanted to look up related videos, that's also useful for that too. So in terms of implementing YouTube safely, responsibly, and ethically into a classroom environment, it is important to be aware of some concerns which have arisen with the site. Whilst YouTube is a great resource in many ways, one of its biggest problems is that by its design, it is impossible to isolate one video from everything else that's available on the platform. A teacher might find a very useful video on YouTube but has little control over the related videos section. The related videos shows up in a sidebar as well as a mosaic of watch next videos. This could be problematic or distracting for students in the classroom, as the related videos may be going off on a different tangent to the topic and may also reflect the teacher's personal interests if accessed from their account. YouTube also has such a large variety of content that it could potentially be negative in terms of influence on students, as users can post and say whatever they like, meaning there is potential for misinformation on the platform. In August 2019, YouTube also came under criticism relating to children and privacy, as the site agreed to stop targeting advertisements on videos which were popular with children. In order for the site to be utilized in a safe, responsible, and ethical way, a teacher could create an account which is used for the purposes of educational videos only, which relate to teaching or classroom activities, and to have a policy that YouTube is only to be used in the classroom for these purposes, which would reduce the potential for distractions and unnecessary use of the site. So the second tool which I'm going to analyze is an online quiz site called Quizzes. Quizzes is a free tool and works on any device with web browsers, Apple iOS, and Google Chrome apps, which is again useful for students who may undertake the quiz from home or from another location outside of the classroom. Hundreds of ready-made quizzes can be accessed, as well as having the option to create your own. As a teacher, you can sign up to Quizzes and then create or choose a quiz and use a code for a virtual room, which you can provide to your students. Whilst I was on a practicum earlier this year, I utilised Quizzes to undertake a visual arts class with a group of Year 11 students, which was based on some theoretical concepts we had been studying in class. Whilst this was used in a Year 11 class, it would essentially function the same way for Years 7 to 10. Quizzes also allows for the collection of quiz data, so once the students had completed the quiz, I collected the data, and following this I was able to identify which areas the students needed to improve in, which then enabled me to plan learning activities, which would improve students' knowledge before undertaking the quiz again to assess their overall improvement. This demonstrates that quizzes can be used as a means of working with students' zone of proximal development as influenced by Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, by testing what students have learned with previous assistance from the teacher, with the overall goal being for those students to be able to then understand the concepts they've been taught on an independent level as they self-regulate their learning. It would also be useful for diverse learners as it may demonstrate aspects of learning which some students may have difficulty with and may demonstrate to the teacher that they may have to modify their teaching in order to cater for these students. So now I'm going to run through a demonstration of how to navigate the Quizzes site. So here you have a quiz that I developed. So this was for my Year 11 class when I was on practicum. You've got some of the questions here. You can then explore here and have a look at different quizzes that are provided. There's a library section, a report section, so you can check on quiz data there and results. You can set up your own classes there, and then this feature here is quite good because you can enter a code here, or you can fabricate a code, you enter it here, and then your students can join using that code on their own device. So in terms of the safe, responsible, and ethical implementation into the classroom, an issue could arise if students were to find out about the quiz data or compare results, as this could cause students with potentially lower scores or ability to feel discouraged. The teacher would have to ensure that quiz results are kept private, which is assisted by assessing the class data as a whole and aiming to improve results as a group. From having used quizzes myself, as long as this is adhered to, it can be quite a fun and interactive way of learning for students. So the last ICT tool which I'm going to discuss is Google Classroom. Google Classroom is a free tool which allows teachers to create a class for students once the school or university has signed up for a free Google Workspace for Education account. It works on a variety of browsers and devices including Apple iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, and Google Chrome. Teachers are able to log into Google Classroom and see a section for each of their classes with courses differentiated by different colors and banners. The class just has to be named, a description entered, a banner image picked, and it's ready to be used. Resources can be shared to students at the same time and they will be notified by email. Teachers can therefore share and annotate Google Docs, sheets, or slides and can keep track of when students had that distributed. Students are able to interact on 3 levels, which includes posting and commenting, and the option of teachers only being able to post and comment. This means that teachers can make announcements early, but also makes it obvious if educators would like students to interact with the posting. There is also a grades chart in which assignments are shown and the teacher can enter a grade, which is shared privately with each student. Overall, it is simple to navigate and useful for students who are not able to physically be in the classroom due to personal or other circumstances. Google Classroom encourages students to continue applying the constructivist principle of becoming independent and self-regulating learners as they develop a responsibility to keep up with and manage their class tasks through the tool, as well as continuing to progress their skills in utilizing advancing educational technologies. Google itself describes the tool as being focused on the personalization of the learning experience for students. As discussed, students can learn 21st century problem-solving skills and the skills they'll use in their future careers, with accessibility features that help every student do their work. So I'm now going to run through a demonstration of how to navigate Google Classroom. So this is a little fake class that I set up. You've got a section here for upcoming work that would be due. You can select your own theme. This section is for creating and scheduling announcements and responding to student posts. You've got a section here for classwork, including assignments, questions, topics. You've got a section here for both teachers and students, so you can keep up to date with everybody and who's in your class, and a section for grades. So there are many features which can be used with Google Classroom, which cater for diverse learners. This includes the use of a braille display for Google Docs and slides for students who may have a visual impairment, caption tracks for students with auditory impairments which are available for slides, and a screen reader and keyboard shortcuts which may benefit more visual learners. In terms of Google Classroom being managed in the classroom in a safe, responsible, and ethical way, safety is ensured for students as a class can only be created once a school or university has first signed up for a free Google Workspace for Education account, as the institution can decide which services students are available to use. This includes the ability for the teacher to look at and personalize the privacy and security settings to best suit the students which are being taught. Accounts can also be set up for students so that they do not use personal accounts outside of school to access these services. Google also assures that data is kept secure, that there are no ads, and compliance is supported with industry regulations and best practices. The fact that grades are kept personal between the teacher and student also ensures that students cannot see the grades of others or can attempt to compare grades, which could be harmful to the self-esteem of lower achieving students. There is also an originality report feature, which enables teachers to run a plagiarism check against other student submissions. So this concludes my reflection of aspects of student learning in relation to constructivism and 3 contemporary ICT learning tools. Thank you for listening, and here are my references.